like when you do this, you're just like swaying back around. But in what? All right, welcome back to yet another episode of Ask FutureLab, and today we're joined by one of our veteran mentors, Varian Ignatius, who's done so much for FutureLab and its mentees. So today we're really excited to have him here to talk to us about his particular industry and what he does. So hi Varian, how are you today?
Hi Josh, I'm good.
Great. Okay, so tell us about yourself.
Right, my name is Varian and I'm a corporate communications professional. I've been in this industry for 15 years, and apart from that, I'm also a mentor with FutureLab. So just a quick bit about what I do. Communication professional. Prior to that, I was in the Middle East for the last 7.5 years. I was working for a major oil and gas company in Doha, Qatar. Before that, I was a PR consultant, and that's pretty much it.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about what a corporate communicator, well, first of all, what is corporate communicator?
Okay, in a nutshell, there's a number of definitions for that. So for me, the way I look at it is a communications professional or a corporate communicator is someone who wears many different hats. For example, you've got to be a trusted advisor to the CEO, to the business leaders, to the people around you, because you're a subject matter expert and they're going to be looking to you to give them advice just about anything revolving around what to say and how to say it. So that includes the stuff that I work on in terms of writing speeches, press releases, emails, announcements, or anything that goes out to a wider audience. So trusted advisor, you've also got to be a very good storyteller. So you've got to be able to come up with angles or to position a product or service that's going to be appealing to someone. So you could take something like really a mundane subject or a product like this cup, for example, and try to weave a story into it and to sort of make it engaging for your audience.
Right, give it a personality.
Exactly. So the other thing I will say about being a corporate communicator is being a good listener, because you've got to really feel the pulse of the company. And a lot of the times people think a communicator is someone who talks all the time, which
Right.
I don't think that's it. I think it's probably 20% talking, but 80% listening. So that's a key skill. You've got to be able to listen and to find out what's going on within the organization, to see which way the wind is blowing. And that sort of helps you as a professional when you're crafting a message, when you're putting a strategy together, you sort of know where to go.
True.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the more common mistakes that certain companies and corporations do and make when it comes to communication?
Okay, I would break this down into two. There's probably a long laundry list that I could talk about, but for the interest of the viewers and time, I would put this into two boxes. Number one, the failure on business leaders and senior managers who do not capitalize on comms, who see it as just a soft skill, who see it as something, by the way, that is there, we need to get this piece of communications out, let's go see the PR and the comms manager and they'll write it and they'll do it, without fully understanding how important comms is. So there's two sides of the spectrum. So I've seen leaders who have, neglected to utilize or to capitalize on comms, and I've seen leaders who have embraced it fully. And they've said, okay, comms is really important. I want to be in the know. I want to be part of the strategy. I want to use my comms person to the full of their abilities. And these kinds of business leaders end up really successful. I mean, think about for a second the business leaders that you see today. You've got people like Jack Ma, you've got Richard Branson, you've got just examples of those guys who use communications a lot right now. They're everywhere. So communications for them is really important. And on that point, I was reading about this recently through Walter Isaacson, the biographer of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is, to me, he epitomizes the business communicator.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, innovation, exactly. But here's an interesting story. After Steve Jobs launched Apple, he basically got funding for the Apple II. His first funding, I think he got a check for $250,000 to develop the Apple II. It was pretty much the success for their company, their first big launch. And what was interesting was from the biography that I read, Steve Jobs, instead of spending money on, going into R&D or building the company, what he did is he took a portion of those funds and he basically hired a communications consultant. he hired one of the best communications consultants in Silicon Valley to sort of help him develop and train. And I think it was a conscious decision that he did years ago. And I think he saw the importance of communications. And if you look fast forward that now, when you see him on the stage, or if you've seen him in his videos when he was doing his town halls and when he was launching the iPhone or the iPad or all the different Apple products, it was going all the way back from that time of that conscious decision. So my point is, business leaders who embrace communications really see the full benefits at the end versus the ones who don't. So that's one spectrum. The other side of this would be the comms professionals themselves. So when you talk about failures, for me, the biggest failure as a comms professional is if you're in a certain job for a long time and you're not developing yourself, you've become complacent. That's not good. That's really not good. And to me, that's a failure. I think that's a real failure. And I've seen it with people in my peers, people I've worked with, who have come a certain point in their career and they've certain established, they've got a number of years behind them, but you reach this point where you become comfortable.
Right.
And you don't develop, and you feel like you get complacent. So I've made it, what's the point, right? But the thing is, and I'll give you an example to this. When I started, I think early 2000, there was no such things as social media. Facebook hadn't come around yet. It was just coming around. There wasn't LinkedIn. There was no Instagram, Snapchat, and these platforms have sort of come in now. So I started in a very traditional sense, a very traditional media, but I've had to consciously improve. I've had to consciously embrace these things, even though I didn't grow up with it.
Correct.
So that's the attitude that most communications professionals need to have in order to be successful. So if you talk about a failure, it's the ones who don't embrace it, simply because either they don't know it or they refuse to embrace it.
So adapt, people.
Adapt, exactly. Adaptability is a skill that every communications professional needs, and it's good for the ones that are starting out. Try to be as adaptable as you possibly can. Yeah.
All right. So, what else do you do on your pastime? Like, what are some of the things that you do on your own time then?
Okay. So outside of work, I do a number of things. One of the things that I started last year was a video blog or a blog site.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've got my own blog site, and it's called VarianIgnatiusProject.com. Check it out. So when I started this, I started with two reasons. Number two, I've got all this knowledge, and when I came back to Malaysia, I figured, got all this knowledge, and I want to try and help younger people, sort of try and spread the knowledge. And the other thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to try and wrap my head around social media and to be really connected and clued into what's going on. And the only way to do that, apart from posting stuff on Facebook and using these platforms, was to create your own.
Right.
So I literally taught myself how to do it. I went on YouTube, I bought books, I figured out how to create a website, how to shoot a video, and I just put that together. And the other thing that I had was I had a very wide network on LinkedIn, and I was connected to a lot of different professionals. So I figured I'd just reach out to them and sort of say, do you guys want to talk about what you do? Can you give me some key takeaways or some advice that I can share it with a wider audience? They were game. And so that's what I work on outside of work. Exactly.
Okay. So do you have any advice for our viewers
Okay.
and also the mentees out there?
Okay, I would say this is a really exciting career, and I would encourage a lot of young people to sort of look at it as something that you want to do in the future. So in general, whatever you're doing, stay curious, have a deliberate process for success, meaning map out where you want to be, and be very clear about your goals and your milestones. And I'd also say, please read, because I know a lot of people nowadays don't read. They really don't, and I think as a generation, it's kind of sad. So, because everybody's doing this all the time, and we're not doing this, and I think books are one of the most powerful sources of knowledge and inspiration and engagement that's not being capitalized on right now. So I would say read, be open to reading, be open to learning, and be adaptable in any situation.
Your Facebook newsfeed doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate all this wisdom that you have to share.
Okay.
So once again, if you would like to know more about corporate communication, or if you'd like to speak to this guy right here and have him be your mentor, make sure to check out FutureLab.my, and we'll also include a link to to Varian's vlog
Okay.
in this post as well. So until next time, futurists, we'll see you then.
All right. See ya.